Hello. I'm not even gonna try to put on any makeup. This is like, why would you bother really? But particularly when you're in tears, there's not a lot that can be done. I'm gonna keep drilling down on these issues. I had the most curious experience recently. I went to work for a woman who was full of hard work and had told me, straight up in the first few hours that she'd rolled the dice investing everything that she owned in a local business. And then a sort of set of bizarre things happened. And well, I say they're bizarre because they were a series of misunderstandings. Like so much of life was a comedy of errors, but it was more like a tragedy of errors. And anyway, push came to shove, so I had cause to wonder who these people were, and I sort of went social media trawling, and I found out that she had suffered, well, she's my age or less actually, and she was not only already a grandmother and a mother of a 30-year-old, but she had suffered her sister being abducted and presumably raped and definitely murdered some 30 years ago. And the way I found this out was that, am I the only person who this stuff gathers around? hippie drivel idiots who are so busy being rich and successful from their own inherited wealth in Sydney and their own good luck and a great choice of partners usually would think, oh, she must be doing something to be around it. But no, this is just going down the road and getting a job. And there it is again. This poor woman had her sister a year ago. It was 30 years a year ago. So 31 years ago. So she's a grandmother now and she's still younger than me. So what, she'd be 50. She's got a 30-year-old. So she was 20 when she had her first child, roughly. And she's Islamic. And so she praises Allah and all of that. But her sister was last seen just after her 16th birthday walking home from the Maitland in the Central Coast, Newcastle. Maitland Shopping Centre at 9 o'clock at night at 16 years of age, thinking you're invincible girls. You never are. They'll do it to you in your home, on your conjugal bed. And she was last seen screaming because she was just about to walk into her auntie's house. That's her mother's sister's house, maternal auntie's house, and was abducted and murdered and raped, presumably. That's usually the way it goes. Her bag and belongings were found on the side of the road. They didn't care for them. It wasn't just some straight thievery. Anyway, again, this got me to thinking how... well, I just got off the phone. Well, it got me to thinking a couple of things. It got me to thinking about, wow, you can't even go down the road and get a cafe job without finding a woman who's had her sister murdered. Or, in my case, my godmother, and turn on the news every night and it's men. It's murdering women. What the fuck is their problem? I'm going to publish all my Andrew Tate serves soon. I'm absolutely relishing them. I hope they amuse you. The land of free speech over at Zuckerberg Central will no doubt, cancel me. Oh, there goes the bloody fridge. No doubt cancel me for free speech in the land of free speech for saying what I did to Andrew Tate today, but I hope it amuses you first. Anyway, meanwhile, I just thought that I would go back to the preposterousness of what I called, I'm going to send this to them, what I called the Attorney-General of New South Wales today about, and also Jodie Harrison, the Minister for Women and DV, otherwise known as a quaint euphemism for men murdering women. And then Kate Washington, who this really goes out to, because I have spent months and months and months emailing. I double-checked that actually, got the memo today, and I gave them the email address of mine and said, well, can I give you a minute? And they took 6. There was that much information there that they went through, and I said, I'd like you to tell me when the first email of mine came into you, because you haven't done anything like jack shit in 2 years, except, and here's the point, here's the crux of the matter, they cancelled, tomorrow they're trying to cancel my working with children check, get this, because I've been assaulted twice by two men who got away with it, even though it's on the police record, and even though those two men, Michael Ives and Ian Little, assaulted every woman before me. And that's on the police record. They were people who were not me. And I did not do that to all of my previous partners. However, both of those men did that to theirs. And so, of course, on top of that, Tim Friedman jumped in and used that against me as if I was subjecting my children in a family law court case separately. Used other men's violence against me, which I left. And even though I gave Friedman lots of evidence and said, look, they've done it to people before, like, why would you aid and abet them? And sure enough, exploiting every little tiny crack in anybody's armour available, as those kind of people with absolutely no morals clearly do. Although, in his own defence, he said, well, I've maintained relationships for 30 years with all the people, and then my paraphrased, who earn me money, otherwise known as my band members. And always good to, keep the home fires burning for the people who are useful and purposeful to you, isn't it? Just not to women who are going, look, there's these other women who are the ex-partners of the man that you're aiding and abetting to take my children off me right now. And so because this piece of shit, Ian Little, who's, assaulted Lindy Green and Michelle Daly and Kaz and let my children nearly die in a house fire at Madeline Little last year, in 2022, as evidenced if you go down my Facebook page and have a look at the photos of her burnt leg like a pork chop. And all these men like Mark Cornwall and everyone's, dum-de-dum-de-doo-doo, we're such great songwriters, and we don't mind playing with these assholes, of course you don't. What was wrong with you? Like, you're such witty arbiters of great taste in one department, and yet you're just going to sail over the top of people's personal behaviour on the next, because it suits you, basically. It suits you. And it suits you, like, oh, he's a good guitarist. Well, he might be a fuckwit to all the women he's ever been with, but we'll get him in the band because he's a great guitarist. No? It makes us sound good, and us is who matters, right? It must be a squibble. All those different women that he squibbled with, it must be just some personal dynamic that he happened to have with all of those different women. Is that what your fucking bullshit logic is? Men? Is it? Suck a dick. Eat a dick. I think that's the saying that the teenagers use, isn't it? Eat a dick. Because you have no scruples, really, do you? It's like you would get into bed with anything that helped you look good. And you can say, oh, well, you got into actual bed with them, so you're the fucker. And that's what they would say to me, or Linda Green, or Michelle Daly, or Kaz, or anyone else who was assaulted, Michael Ives' wife, Amber, and people before. I mean, it is just, I'm laughing because it is so fucking preposterous. So getting to the crux, what are we in here, 5 minutes? What are we, 5 minutes? No, it's 5:14. Getting to the crux here, I get told by the completely inept shitfuckery of the New South Wales Police Force, g'day Yasmin Catley, I mean, I have tried to contact you, and like, what are you doing on $350,000 a year? What do you do? I mean, we understand you fired one person when they, after 12 years on the job, tasered a dementia patient to death with a Zimmer frame holding a butter knife. That's what it took for you to fire one of them, but you still can't get it together to put bomb dogs on train stations instead of police drug sniffer dogs. Even though, drugs are legal for personal use, 97% of the people you get don't even have dealable quantities. You're fucked from arsehole to breakfast, basically. And it's not your fault, but you could have done something when you inherited LNP's shitfuckery, and you haven't. And neither is Kate Washington. So this one goes out to you too, Kate, because I have tried for years to tip you off to the fact that you're licensing DV perpetrators to take my children. And you're all just sitting there going, oh, it's too hard, basket. Throw it over there. Ooh, boink. And where does it land? Oh, Michael Tidball. Now, Michael Tidball, here's one for you too. You are the ex-New South Wales Legal Association head, or words to that effect. What is it? New South Wales Law Association No. So you've had more than enough opportunity to get across shitloads of law by now. And then you've got your 2IC is Simone Czech, spelt like Czechoslovakia. And then her 2IC in the Care and Protection Department is Paul O'Reilly. These are all 25-year-long career professionals, with the exception of Tidball, who has been, a lawyer first. But all these other people have been at DCJ, if you go over to their LinkedIn profiles and check them out, for years, like donkey's years. And they would all be on, 250, 350 grand. Ian Little's brother, Stuart Little, who heads up the PSA, where Stuart Little's wife, Julie Westacott, works. And they're all, Stuart Little's on 400. Ian Little, taking my disability support pension for keeping my children from me after assaulting me, is on 110, plus 17% super, and then there's all the, 37.5 exactly per hours a week, and then the roster days off, and, all that bullshit. Still, he manages to find time to play in bands on the weekend and leave my children at home alone, cooking, in my 10-year-old's case last year, where she could have burnt herself and no one would have been home to drive her to a hospital. And when she sent me a picture of her burnt legs where she could have died in a house fire, he was only too happy to cut off all of her communications with me. So this goes out to you, Kate Washington, and it goes out to Yasmin Catley. So Kate Washington's the Minister under Labor, who I've tried to get through to for a year and a half now, and same with Yasmin Catley. None of them ever answer me when I say, could you please look up my email address and tell me what the first date is that you've got of an email there of mine, please? And they all say, oh, no, we can't. They take 6 minutes to do it first. They go, yes, there's a volume of correspondence there. We admit, yes, we can see. I'm like, yeah, great. Well, can you tell me when the first one was, please? Thinking, look, I can tell you because it's in my sent box, but I'd like you to acknowledge it because on camera. Because you can't plead the fifth, not like we have the fifth because we don't know Bill of Rights. So you can't plead your right to silence and that you're not going to talk about this because you knew. So again, today, getting to the crux, when my children's name was falsely put on a apprehended domestic violence order in March 2022, which their father deliberately provoked by nearly scalding me, pouring out of a kitchen window above my head a kettle of presumably boiling water, not like I could see that in the quick crepuscular light, in the quick moment of the crepuscular light, but presumed because it was a kettle. So ducked and ran back up full of adrenaline and, fight or flight, as they call it. Adrenaline, turned on my own video camera on my phone to make sure that I wasn't harmed and said, if you touch me, I will kill you, because he'd threatened to before. So the police turned up whacking AVO on me. Now, some dipshit at Downing Centre called Tim Henderson, who I went into Downing Centre last week to defend this matter, by the way, and who happens to be on leave. They've all just got such fantastic terms and conditions in these jobs, don't they? $120,000 a year, 17% super, 35.7 hours a week, or is it 37.5? And then it's like 6 weeks paid annual leave, and you get a family and community services day thrown in. I mean, wow. Boy, did unions do it right for people who are in the public service. Everyone else can go and eat a dick, though, because they've got no job security whatsoever, have they? And rentals have never been higher, and there's never been less of them, and a bank won't loan you. But the banks have made what was it, ANZ yesterday? We're on the 14th of November 2023 in Australia, and yesterday the ANZ came out with yet another whopping record $7 billion profit. Like $5 billion last year wasn't enough. But you're getting told that inflation's going up, so that they're going to have to keep jacking up the prices, even though at the same time Alan Fells, just to jump up on another topic for a moment, Alan Fells, Alan Fells, who spoke really slowly about superannuation 5 or 10 years ago on the ads, the TV show. Alan Fells is the first person who's had the balls to come out in the last week and say what I've been saying for a while, and surely hundreds of other people have been saying for a while, which is, I reckon Wes Farmers and Coles and Woolies and everyone are kind of like profiteering, or as he called it, price gouging, because once the sentiment and the idea is up in the public conversation that costs are going up everywhere, well then, hey, let's put some costs up, because that's what everyone accepts as reality, and that's the new reality, so let's just do it more. And so then you get this feedback loop, just to dive off from my own issues for a minute, but quite feeding into them. You get this feedback loop where they go and take a grocery basket of groceries, and measure what they cost, and then they throw in rent and your phone bill and your petrol, and they come up with the CPI, the consumer price. Sorry, not the consumer price index. Well, yes, it is that, and then also they come up with inflation figures. But, of course, it's going to be inflated if, like, everyone's Airbnb-ing and they're triple negative gearing everything, and so the house, and then they're importing 180,000 people a year from overseas, even though we can't actually afford to house the people who are currently here. And so, like, just this kind of hyperinflation environment where everybody then jumps on the ride, everybody being the banks who own the supply chain of money, and then the people, Wesfarmers and Coles and Woolies and the banks, they own the entire supply chain from petrol to grog to groceries and everything in between, and then the banks own your mortgage. And so in that cohort, you basically have 90% of your cost of living, and they all go, whoa, wacko, there's this conversation on that the prices are going up, we'll ride a little wave there, and they push them up even further, and look, lo and behold, the proof is that they bring in profits, not turnover, profits, that are record profits, and then you get told that you have to pay more still because the cost of living's going up, as if it's a function, as if the cost of living and inflation going up, as if the cost of living going up is a function of your wages being so great that you can pay more, and so the market's instinctively reacting like it has a fucking instinct, other than bloodthirsty, bloodlust, greed. It reacts, this bullshit trickle down, you pissing in our pockets to say this. Your trickle down theory is that, the market's lifting because wages will sustain it. Well, bullshit. You got the sentiment insinuated in everyone's minds through the public conversation, and sparked maybe by, Russia murdering people in Ukraine. And all you would need is one little spark and off goes the fire, and it's the big conversations on about the cost of living's up and inflation's up. Well, and then so they, unbelievably the stupidity is, let's just keep putting the prices of houses up so that it brings everybody's capacity to pay for things down, as if the discretionary spend is what's going on. It's not a discretionary spend, groceries and your mortgage. It's not. But yet they're going to put that in the basket, literally, of what they measure in inflation. So, wow, what a detour around from I went down the road to get a cafe job to pay the rent, and found yet another woman whose sister this time had been... It's not a laugh, it's just this is fucking preposterous. His sister had 30 years ago, at 16 years of age, had been abducted. She was literally 900 metres from the Maitland shopping mall, nearly at her mother's sister's house, and screamed as two men in a ute were seen pulling her off somewhere, and she was never to be seen again. And this led me to the fact that I keep saying crux. What's that, the fourth time it's been a crux? This is the fourth time I'm going for the crux. In their stupidity, Kate Washington and Yasmin Catley and the Attorney General Daly, all their officers, I've been CCing them into all the CCing them into all the emails so that nobody can say that they weren't on the same page, literally. And so I give chase by phone and say, have you got the email? You're about to cancel my working with children check, even though you told me it was only put on when the wrong AVO with my children's names on it got put on me, because I tried to give my children, after not seeing them, against federal circuit family law court parenting orders for ages, which you won't enforce. After that, you then put an AVO on me, which their father himself conceded to taking off. So I go and try and give my own daughter a home-cooked meal and clothes, and my son, having not seen them for ages, they put the wrong AVO on me. Then they admit it. Then I get a mea culpa, I'm sorry letter from Tim Henderson on the 14th of September at 5:27 p.m. from the Downing Centre saying, oh, sorry, it's the wrong AVO. But by this time, as I've told you in previous pieces to camera, they've already thrown me in a shit-smeared jail, paddy wagon and a jail cell, 5 cops, cell, cops, smell, pigs, filth. They've thrown me in the filth. The filth have thrown me in their filth, ruined my record. And so in their ingeniousness, this guy called Steve Golab, Gohlab, who's the director of the Office of the Children's Guardian, he's up shit creek, just by the by, because elsewhere in his universe that's relevant, a real pedophile in Brisbane who worked in a childcare centre raped 45 children. A man, of course, who raped 45 children before he got caught. And so they're like, oh, geez, we better clamp down on those people with working with children checks. And so the idiocy of this system is that the New South Wales Police, under Yasmin Catley a year and a half ago, but before that, it was a douchebag whose name I'll remember in a moment. And before Kate Washington for DCJ, it was Natasha McLaren-Jones, who, by the way, went to Skeggs on the North Shore of Sydney and wouldn't know a suffering person if she accidentally stepped around one in Martin Place who was, homeless and pissing themselves and sleeping in their own urine, and if she failed to give them $1, she wouldn't know any of the people who she represented in her elite little girls' school and her LNP party. She was presiding, and her offsider accidentally was Tanya Plibersek's husband, Michael Coutts-Trotter, who infamously, as we all know, because the Daily Telegraph in Britain told us, went to jail for 7 years for heroin importation. Before he met Tanya and did his time and paid his dues, but he made international headlines because he ended up becoming the very top dog at DCJ, the Department of Communities and Justice in New South Wales, and it was under him and Gareth Ward. They happened to be presiding when I had the nervous breakdown from accumulated stressors of 2 men being violent to me, plus my godfather murdering his wife. And so my point keeps being to these people, are you insane? Let me get this straight. I'm suffering the result of, I did nothing wrong. I left these 2 men who abused me. I've got immaculate references from my childcare, my barrister, nannying clients who are barristers, my entire family at the time before they all descended into suing each other. I've never done anything wrong, never been near sexually assaulting, let alone harming a child, never hurt anyone. They're all up the top of the grade, and yet you told me that you would give me an extension because as soon as an AVO goes on you to get to the very, very crux, you get your working with children check cancelled, particularly if children's names are on it. So they incorrectly put my children's names on it at the behest of a really nasty piece of work called Ian Little, who's withheld them from me for years anyway, and beaten up his wife, Lindy Green, and smashed the head on the floor of his previous victim in between, Michelle Daly. She's an eye care bureaucrat in New South Wales. And so all of this is on the police record, and it's still, this guy's got my children, and still he's then been licensed by the state of New South Wales to weaponise my children against me further, like I should have to suffer more at this point. And so they say, well, we're going to cancel you working with children check. I go, no, you don't, because my children's name were never meant to be on that AVO, okay? And there's a malicious piece of shit up there who's assaulted 2 other women before me and is using my children to further abuse me, who put that, and he himself ended up conceding to take it off. Not before 1.5 years of my then young, now not so young children's lives had gone by without me, where they get further away and taught that every time mum turns up, there's the police because the father has done it. Not paying child support, claiming out $110,000 a year as he is from my disability support pension that he put me in. You cannot make this shit up. And so they give me, they being the Working with Children Check Director, OCG, under Steve Golab, give me till tomorrow, the 15th of November, to overturn the appeal that I'm mounting against this in the Downing Centre in the courts. And I get there a week ago in order to do this, in order to overturn an appeal that false AVO on me when I said, if you touch me, I'll kill you, because he'd threatened to before, and he'd tried to pour a kettle of boiling water over my head. Not like anybody saw it, because he made sure of that. Cunning little, cunning stunt that he is, like he's done it before, on the record, as 3 other women who are not me said. And the police turn up last week, Melbourne Cup Day, And they don't have their shit together. Their prosecutors are missing a transcript, or so they say. And I'm like, well, I think I could help the court, Your Honour. I got everything backed up to the Google Cloud in case, the laptop dies or the house burns down or I lose it or everything. So I'm pretty sure, like, if you wouldn't mind, Your Honour, if it would serve the court, we could perhaps take an adjournment and I could provide this transcript to the prosecution over here and, it would serve the court and the taxpayer of New South Wales and certainly me because this has been put off already once before and they've cancelled my working with children check and I've had an extension on that in order to overturn this matter. So I'd like to proceed, Your Honour. And he's like, no, not in my court. Gravel down. It'll be the 22nd of January, 2024. Another 3 months away. I'm like, hang on. I've got it here. Surely it would serve the purposes of justice, Your Honour. Since I can't even, and I'll show you this proof, I can't even get a job scrubbing a toilet in a hotel or driving an Uber in case a child walks in without one of these, let alone retrain as the state of New South Wales says they want teachers and they desperately need teachers. And here am I with a university degree. I've had an entire history since 1995 teaching children, high school's children about climate change, primary school's children about etymology, insects, bugs, my own children at the top of the state, 2 out of 3, and the third one will be when she gets back to be with me, if she ever does. And she's doing okay anyway, but And I've also been a nanny and a childcare worker regulated for 4 years, 50 hours a week alone by the federal government, never missing a beat, spot checked unannounced every 2 weeks in a federal family daycare setting. So I've got more than enough runs on the board. Go over and look at LinkedIn, go over and look at Instagram. It's all there. All of the evidence. And so they say no. They say no. You're cancelled tomorrow. And I say, no, you can't do that because I've got it in writing from you that you gave me an extension until tomorrow because I was appealing this and we would have had a result from last week, so 7 days would be enough to settle the result and then see if I even had grounds for an appeal if I wasn't successful. But they said no. No, we're going to cancel it tomorrow anyway. So I got on the phone to, Daly, and he's the New South Wales Attorney General, and I got on the phone to Yasmin Catley, she's the police minister. I got on the phone to Jodie Harrison's office. I'm like looking up their policy advisors on LinkedIn the whole time, like making sure all of them are keyed in, going, this is going on, have a look over here, this is grotesquely unfair. I'll make sure this gets out to film producers or people who are producers of news because this is a disgrace anywhere on earth, let alone a modern democracy for women in 2023, a so-called advanced democracy. I did everything right. I left them. They abused me. They'd done it to everyone before me. I hadn't done it to anyone before me. I bought my own house. I did everything right. And then they inflicted this on me. And then I came to get my children out of desperation while they used my children, weaponised against me, just like Hamas with Israel, stealing children, just like Israel murdering children in the Gaza Strip, just like Putin stealing children off Ukrainian mothers. It's the whole fucking men's game of just rape and war and murder and thieving children, this disgusting shitfuckery that this filthy swine do. Not all of them, just a lot of them. And they said, no, sorry, well, your time's up. And I was like, no, it's not, because you granted me the extension to appeal this and the police didn't have their shit together. The police prosecutors didn't have their shit together. So it necessarily, by logic alone, needs to be tied over until January in 2024. So because that's the grounds on which you extended it. And they said no. So I'm going to finish because I had the incredible experience of just going down the road to try and get a job in a cafe and meeting a woman who was just trying to get along with her life running a cafe after her own sister at 16 years of age had been abducted, raped and murdered 30 years ago. I mean, you just go down the road to get a job in a cafe and some other woman's been murdered. Or you turn on the TV news and your daughter's school, another woman's been murdered. And so I don't think I've ever posted this, but this is the only thing left. The Channel 10 report, as I've said before, was better on the night that my godfather was murdered his wife. Just after my mother died. It was better because they interviewed as I've said before, they interviewed the neighbours who were all, it's a very stable neighbourhood out there in Milperra, apparently, despite the Comanchero Barky gang down at the local pub. The good burgers in the side streets managed to keep their shit together for a long time, and they were a cohesive community. So Channel 10's news that night on the 13th of September 2016, when Anne Rogers was murdered by Warren, they interviewed the neighbours on Channel 10, and it's not there on YouTube anymore. And it's a shame because, you know, they all just were like, literally one of them just was staring off into the distance saying, you may as well have told me little green Martians have landed, because I would believe that more than this. But it's not there anymore. But this is it. And so this is all around you all the time. And we are, you are, we, you, us, we are drowning. Australia, you're standing in it. You're not only standing in a place that voted against people who'd been here for the longest place that any human beings have been anywhere stably on Earth, 65,000 years. In Australia, asking to be heard officially, no matter whether Tweedledee or Tweedledum were running Canberra, asking to be heard, enshrined in the Constitution for a voice. And 60% of the ingrates who overtook and stole their nation couldn't even give them that a month ago. So you're not only standing in it, Australia, as the D generation said 35 years ago, you are also standing in a place where a woman is literally systemically eroded as a childcare professional from her own children for being abused. And despite having 4 mental health professionals, 3 psychiatrists, that is, and a psychologist, all saying, yep, no, nothing wrong with her except totally depressed from losing her children and being abused. And still that's not enough to get them back. And still there's nobody enforcing family law court orders. And then the police get put on you when you come out of desperation to see your own children removed to a house where you don't even know where their heads lay at night, as if that's not going to torment you into the grave. In and of itself. I mean, how is it different to be a mother in Australia than it is to be any of those mothers that of children that Hamas stole, or of children who are murdered on the Gaza Strip by right-wing nutjob called Netanyahu, hell-bent on rectifying his own ego by murdering people in the world's biggest outdoor prison camp and cutting off their water and food supply? I mean, is anyone not waking the fuck up to the fact that men are the problem? Like, they are the problem. Not all of them, just most of them. Just a fucking shitload of them. You should see what I wrote to Andrew Tate. Whew. But so this is you know, I went in there to get my pay from this cafe, and she was all defensive because she didn't want to pay me as much as she said she would at first. And so there was this weird Mexican standoff. And so I went home and went, who are these people? And had a look at them on the social media and found out that she's just yet another woman in Australia. In this case, whose sister, who she loved dearly and was good friends with, unlike mine, who have sued each other and given my own child away, or tried to. My rich sister on the Northern Beaches, married into wealth that she didn't create, tried to give my own son away to a foster carer, which is how the evil piece of work who'd assaulted 3 women before me got him. And, of course, now they don't want to know me because, funnily enough, he kept them away for so long. It's called parental alienation. It's not criminal. But driving your own bloody car after not paying a parking fine for 4 months is. That's how fucked up your country is. So, without further ado, this was the broadcast. I'm not sure I've ever put the link here before, but this is it.
A man who smothered his wife to death with a pillow at their Milperra home will spend at least 12 years behind bars. Anne Rogers was killed after reconnecting with her high school sweetheart. But the judge said this wasn't a straightforward case of domestic violence.
Warren Rogers did not give anything away as he was sent off to spend the next decade of his life behind bars.
She was gorgeous, she was kind, she was generous, she was a wonderful person. And I miss her every day.
Anne Rogers' sister, a serving police officer, speaking after she was forced to relive the day she lost so much in September 2016, when Rogers killed his wife during an argument about a man she had reconnected with as their marriage of 40 years faltered.
I will say that my wife asked me to kill her.
Your wife asked you to kill her?
That's correct.
How did you kill her?
I smothered her with a pillow.
She hadn't asked him any such thing. Rogers tried to take his own life afterwards, but survived, and 3 years later, a jury found him guilty of murder.
The judge said, while on the face of it, this was yet another case of domestic violence, it's actually much more complicated than that. She accepted Rogers' mind was affected by major depression.
She said the act of violence was out of character for the otherwise good man, and she noted he had the support of both their children.
Obviously, nothing's going to bring my sister back, and justice has been done for my sister.
He'll be in his 80s when he's first eligible for parole. Kelly Fedor, 9 News.
Yeah, so, you know, like I said, you go down the road to take a cafe job, and even the woman who's opened the cafe had a sister raped and murdered 30 years ago. They never found her, and I just... her mother was on TV. She posted it online, which is where I saw it, and her mother... because the police, after 30 years, had reopened a cold case and posted a $1 million reward, which usually brings a few, you know, people out of the woodwork. But look, I mean, this is just insanity. The conversation isn't even being had. As I said 1,000,000 times before, and I will say again, all kookaburras are birds. Not all birds are kookaburras. So 97% of rapists, murderers and warmongers on the planet are male, but not all males are rapists and warmongers. We need to get rid of men ruling the world. We really do. This is a conversation that just is an absolute no-brainer. Not that you'd have no brain for mounting it, but you would have no brain for even questioning it. The patriarchy is poisonous. You could not look around the planet with its atrocious amount of destruction from wars. It's rape of women, it's murder of women, it's subjugation of women on, still to this day and age, 55 years past the invention of the contraceptive pill, and still not giving the pill to 2/3 of the women on the planet who desperately need it because they can't even bring up their own children and are involuntarily impregnated by penises. And then you get subjected, pardon me, you get subjected to pieces of shit like Andrew Tate. I'm going to post what I wrote to Andrew Tate today. I'm going to start trolling him significantly. I'm going to bring it right up to him, as Helen Garner would say. I'm going to bring it up to him because this fuckwit literally preaches, you know, the subjugation sexually. He's a barely convoluted pimp. But he makes these points about, you know, men having harems of women all over the world through history, like Genghis Khan, and that every alpha male, you know, fucked everything that moved, and women's role is to be subjugated. Oh, just atrocious horseshit. But at least he's actually speaking what most of the Middle Eastern religions who flank Israel believe, making it all the more fucked that Israel has screwed up by murdering and committing genocide and war crimes on Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, because it's totally fucked their right to any moral high ground when they were the only democracy there who were meant to be not misogynist and upholding the democratic principles. So there goes that. So, you know, you could not, in other words, just to explain it to a child, you could not do a more fucked up job of running this planet than men have done. You know, until there are as many ugly, venal, corrupt, repulsive, disgusting and inept women running the planet as there already are men. Fuck you, Jordan Peterson. It's not a meritocracy, you idiot. There's nothing meritorious about these men at all. You know, until there is as many venal, inept, corrupt, disgusting, revolting females running the show, every show, religions, governments, corporations, 96% CEOs, still men. Until we have that. You know, men actually need to get the fuck out of the way now. Whatever is left of the potential of the survival of the human race against the existential threat of climate change, but as important, if not more, microplastics in the entire food chain. Couldn't do a worse and more shit-ass job of running the place, could you? So just let's get rid of them now, you know? Like I said, get them all on Elon Musk's rocket, his fucking little Tesla engine, and take Jeff Bezos and get them to leave their money here and fuck them off to Mars, and give all their money to women's education and contraception around the entire planet, and just give it 2 generations to settle the hell down, and then mandate that 96% of them be in governments and religions all over the world. And let's just see. Let's just see what happens. You might think that this is a rant. Oh, she's doing a rant. No, it's called a soliloquy. Or if you were a real Hollywood actor or a London stage actor, it'd be called, what's Alan Head's series called? Talking Heads. You know, somebody talking to the camera, extempore, free associating on ideas. But these ideas are very related. They're misogyny by the patriarchy. They're the murder and oppression of women. And then, in my case, a systemic continuation of that upheld by a democratic system which refuses to engage with the cause of what traumatises women, which is men's behaviour, particularly in my case and all the women before me, and then seeks to further punish me by eroding my right not only to my own children or to an intellectually rewarding career retraining as a teacher with an undergraduate degree that I already have. Would only take me 2 years to be a teacher when I've spent 27 years teaching on and off children successfully, as the evidence says. But not even being able to drive an Uber or a taxi or clean a toilet in a hotel in case a child walks in, or because of what men have done to me. I didn't do anything to my children to harm them. The evidence is them. And talking about it has now embarrassed them because they are of age where their peers matter. And so they don't want to be shamed by having a dysfunctional home situation. And as my daughter said, like, most people I know, like, no, hardly anyone's divorced. Well, she must be in a strange cohort. There's an awful lot of people. 50% of Australian couples, according to the Bureau of Statistics, ABS, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, are divorced within 7 years. So I don't know how she's managed to find herself in a place where that's not the case. But either that or she's not noticing it because she's young. She's only 11. But look, I've got 7 years potentially with her until she's an official adult. And I already had my other children and her younger life stolen from me. And I did nothing wrong to them. By evidence of my own clients in a daycare, my own nannying clients, even after I'd lost everything and stood up and nannied for barristers, and by evidence of my own once happy, or at least relatively so, pardon the pun, family, who are now all suing each other and warring. They said she's never done anything wrong. She's a helicopter parent. And yet tomorrow, on the 15th of November 2023, I'm going to lose my right to clean a toilet bowl. It just, really. Kate Washington, Yasmin Catley, Michael Daly, they are ministers for DCJ, Minister for Women New South Wales, and the Attorney General for New South Wales, respectively, 1, 2 and 3. It's on your head. And particularly Steve Golab and Laura, whoever the fuck you are, over at the Office of the Children's Guardian, whoever the hell you think you are, that you can keep victimising women who've already had it. From getting away from men who've already assaulted them on every level, particularly emotionally, definitely physically, and in the case of the murder by my godfather, like very deeply spiritually. This is a man who, he was a good man. He rang my mother once a week, unlike my own sisters and me, when she was dying. But he murdered. And I don't see it going back the other way. I don't see women murdering men. So I guess that's all I've got to say. I had my settings on public to pass it around to film and news producers because I want I want it said because, again, on the weekend, I think I've said this to you yesterday, I met yet another person who hasn't seen their children for 3 years. And he, again, is one of the nicest. Like, seriously, he actually works with police checks and working with children checks and all of those things. He works tending, disabled people and older people. He works as a care worker. And he's a highly regarded musician who's been around 35 years in the Sydney music scene, and he's well reputed as an extremely nice man. And everybody knows that from his actions and his heart. And his words, and words are actions. And he hasn't seen his kids, and there's no punishment. So this is just sick. It's sick, and it's got to stop. And the only way it stops, remember, is that you phone and you write and you call, you write a letter. This is not what I think should be happening in a democracy. And then you make a call. Did you get my letter? Then you make a petition, and then you put the petition around and you sign it.